The sky above the colony world was painted in dull orange as the sun set behind the hills. The abandoned train station stood like a lonely shadow, its roof bent in places, its glass windows broken, and its tracks covered in rust and weeds. Once, people had filled this place with laughter, noise, and the rush of trains. Now, only silence remained, broken sometimes by the wind passing through empty platforms. Aaron walked carefully along the cracked stone path that led to the station. He was young, curious, and had always loved exploring forgotten places. While many avoided the station, calling it useless and haunted, Aaron felt it was filled with secrets waiting to be discovered. He pushed the heavy wooden door, and it creaked loudly before opening. Dust floated in the air like faint mist. The smell of old wood and iron surrounded him. Aaron carried a small lamp in his hand. He lifted it higher to see the long waiting hall, its benches broken and its walls covered with old posters. Some posters still showed faded letters about train routes that no longer existed. He walked slowly, looking at every corner. His heart beat fast, not from fear but from excitement. Places like these made him feel connected to the past, as if history itself was whispering to him. As he reached the main platform, he stopped suddenly. He was not alone. Across the platform, near a collapsed pillar, stood a figure. At first, he thought it was a shadow, but then the figure moved. The soft glow of his lamp revealed her. She was tall, slim, and clearly not human. Her skin was faintly silver under the dim light, her eyes bright like two small stars, and her hair flowed smoothly down her back like liquid metal. Aaron froze, unsure what to do. She was an alien girl, one of the people from beyond the colony's borders. He had seen her kind only from far away, never this close. They were known for being distant, always keeping away from humans, as if friendship between the two was forbidden. The girl stepped back quickly, her eyes sharp and cautious. She looked ready to run into the shadows. Aaron raised his free hand slowly, showing he meant no harm. "I'm not here to trouble you," he said softly, his voice calm. "I was just exploring." She tilted her head slightly, studying him with a serious expression. For a moment, neither spoke. The only sound was the wind pushing through the broken glass. Finally, she spoke. Her voice was smooth but carried a hint of suspicion. "Humans are not supposed to come here." Aaron gave a small smile. "Then why are you here?" Her eyes narrowed. She didn't answer right away, but Aaron noticed she did not run either. Instead, she stayed where she was, as if some part of her wanted to stay. "My name is Aaron," he said, breaking the silence again. "I come here because I like old places. They make me wonder about the people who once lived and traveled here." The girl seemed surprised at his calmness. Slowly, she said, "Myra." Her name hung in the air between them, gentle yet strong. Aaron felt a wave of relief. She had trusted him enough to tell her name. He stepped closer, careful not to make her uncomfortable. "It's nice to meet you, Myra." Myra's eyes softened for a moment, but then she looked away, as if reminding herself not to get too close. "You should leave. If someone finds us here together, it will not be good." Aaron could sense the worry in her tone. But he also noticed the way she lingered, not truly pushing him away. "Maybe," he said, "but I think sometimes good things are found in forbidden places." Her lips curved slightly, almost like a hidden smile, but she quickly turned serious again. She stepped toward the shadows, as if preparing to leave. Before she disappeared, she glanced back at him. "You should not come here again." Aaron held her gaze, his lamp glowing faintly between them. "I think I will," he said simply. Myra gave no answer. She vanished into the broken halls, leaving only the sound of her footsteps echoing in the distance. Aaron stood still for a while, his heart racing. He had not only found life in the empty station but something far more unexpected, a connection. He looked around the abandoned place again. Suddenly, it no longer felt empty. As he stepped outside into the cooling night, Aaron whispered to himself, "This place still has stories left to tell." And deep inside, he knew this was only the beginning. The next morning, Aaron could not stop thinking about the silver-skinned girl he had met inside the station. He sat on the edge of his small bed, staring out the window of his house at the distant hills. He wondered if Myra would return to the abandoned place, or if last night had been the only time he would ever see her. Most people would have been afraid after such a meeting, but Aaron felt the opposite. He felt curious. Something about the way Myra looked at him, cautious yet not hateful, stayed in his mind. He wanted to understand her. That afternoon, instead of joining the others in the town square, Aaron carried tools and a small bag of food and walked again toward the station. The wind was dry, and the sky was pale blue. Birds rested on wires above, watching him as if they knew his secret. When he entered the waiting hall, he noticed dust marks on the floor, as though someone had been there since he left. He smiled quietly to himself. She had come back. Aaron set down his bag and began to clear one of the benches. He used a cloth to wipe away layers of dust, then tried to fix a broken leg of the bench with the tools he carried. He worked carefully, humming a soft tune. A faint sound reached his ears, a light step, almost like a whisper on stone. He turned his head slowly. There she was again. Myra stood near one of the pillars, half hidden, watching him. "You returned," Aaron said warmly. She crossed her arms, her bright eyes narrowing. "I told you not to." Aaron gave a small shrug. "And yet, here you are too." Myra looked away, but her lips pressed together as if she had no answer. She walked forward slowly, stopping near the bench he was repairing. Her silver skin glowed faintly under the weak sunlight coming through the broken roof. "Why are you cleaning this place?" she asked, her voice curious but sharp. "Because it should not stay forgotten," Aaron said. "Even old places deserve care. Maybe if we bring back some light, it won't feel so empty anymore." Myra tilted her head. "Humans always try to fix things, even things that are broken beyond use." "Why?" Aaron smiled. "Because we believe something broken can still have meaning. Sometimes, it just needs a second chance." She fell silent at his words. Something in them seemed to touch her. She lowered herself slowly onto the bench opposite him, brushing dust away with her hand. For a moment, they just sat in the quiet hall. The sound of the wind whistling through the windows surrounded them. Aaron reached into his bag and pulled out a piece of bread. He broke it in half and offered her one piece. Myra looked at it carefully, as if deciding whether to accept. After a few seconds, she took it, her fingers brushing against his. Her skin felt cool and smooth, unlike any human's. She ate slowly, her eyes never leaving him. "Your people would not like this," she said softly. "Mine would not either." Aaron nodded. "Maybe. But I think sometimes rules are wrong. They keep people apart who might understand each other." Myra stared at him. She wanted to argue, but instead, she found herself asking, "What do you see when you look at this place?" Aaron looked around the hall, the broken glass, the rusted rails. I see life that once was, and I imagine it coming back. People waiting for trains, talking, laughing. Maybe even children running around. And now, she asked. Now, he said, turning his gaze to her, I see you here. And that makes this place alive again. Myra's eyes widened slightly, her usual guarded expression softening. No one had spoken to her like that before. She turned her face away quickly, hiding the small warmth rising within her. She stood up, brushing dust from her clothes. You speak too easily, she said, but her voice lacked sharpness now. Aaron laughed gently. Maybe. But it's honest. Myra looked at him for a long moment. Then she said quietly, I come here because it feels safe. Away from eyes that judge. But if you keep coming, it may no longer be safe for me. Aaron lowered his tools and stood. Then let's keep it safe together. Her eyes softened again, but she shook her head. Humans are strange. You risk much for little. Or maybe, Aaron replied with a grin, little things become great when you don't ignore them. For the first time, Myra's lips curved into a small, real smile. She quickly hid it, but Aaron had already seen it. The evening sun was fading when she finally stepped back into the shadows. I may not return tomorrow, she said. Aaron nodded. But I will. If you come, I'll be here. If you don't, I'll still keep this place alive. Myra gave him one last glance, her eyes holding a faint glow, and then she disappeared into the dark corridors. Aaron stayed behind, sitting on the half-fixed bench. His chest was warm, though the station was cold. He realized the emptiness was gone again, replaced by something small but bright, a spark. The days passed slowly, and the abandoned train station began to change. Each time Aaron visited, he brought small tools, oil for the rusted hinges, and pieces of wood to mend broken benches. The old place, which once felt lifeless, now began to show signs of care. Lamps that had been dark for years flickered back to life with his touch, and broken windows were covered with cloth to stop the wind from whistling so loudly. But more than the station, it was Myra who changed. She still came carefully, always watching for signs of others. Her people would not approve of her visits, and she reminded Aaron of that often. Yet, despite her warnings, she kept returning. Each time, she sat a little closer, spoke a little more, and listened longer to his stories of Earth. Aaron often told her about human history, how people survived wars, storms, and even great distances between stars. He told her about laughter during hard times and songs sung in broken places. Myra listened silently, sometimes frowning, sometimes smiling faintly when she thought he wasn't looking. One evening, as the sky turned purple and the air cooled, Myra arrived earlier than usual. She seemed restless, her bright eyes scanning the empty hall before she sat on the edge of the repaired bench. You should not be here tonight, she said quickly, her voice low. It is not safe. Aaron looked at her with concern. Why? What happened? She hesitated, her silver fingers tightening around the strap of the small bag she carried. If I tell you, you must promise not to speak of it. Not to anyone. Do you understand? Aaron nodded without pause. I promise. Myra looked at him for a long moment, as if searching for any sign of doubt. Then, with a slow breath, she opened her bag and pulled out something small. It was a crystal, smooth and glowing faintly blue. Light shimmered inside it like trapped stars. Aaron leaned forward, fascinated. What is it? He asked softly. Myra held it carefully, as if it were fragile. These are memory crystals. They hold records of the past events, stories, truths. My people keep them hidden. They want us to forget. Aaron's eyes widened. Forget what? Her voice trembled slightly, though her face stayed calm. That long ago, in a war against a stronger race, my people would not have survived without humans. Your kind stood beside us when no one else would. We won because of you. But later, we erased that history. Our leaders said humans were weak, simple, unworthy. They built walls between us and you, teaching us to look down on your kind. She looked down at the crystal in her hand, the blue light shining against her silver skin. I found these records in a forgotten place. If anyone discovers I have them, I will be cast out. Maybe worse. That is why I come here. It is the only place where I can keep them safe. Aaron felt a chill run through him. He had always known that humans were often seen as lesser by other races, but hearing this truth shook him. Still, he did not feel anger toward her. Instead, he felt respect. She was risking so much just to protect a hidden truth. You're not ashamed of it, are you? He asked gently. Myra shook her head. No, I am ashamed of the lie. But I am afraid too. If they learn what I hold, they will call me a traitor. Aaron reached out carefully, not touching the crystal but letting his hand rest on the bench near hers. You're not a traitor. You're brave. You're guarding the truth, even when it's dangerous. That's more than most would ever do. Myra's eyes met his. For a moment, she seemed uncertain, as if she wanted to believe him but feared the cost. Then slowly, her shoulders relaxed. She placed the crystal back into her bag and closed it tightly. You are different, she whispered. Most humans I have seen lower their heads, accept the way things are. But you speak as if walls can be broken. Aaron smiled softly. Maybe walls exist only until someone decides to climb over them. Her lips curved faintly, though she quickly looked away. The sound of the wind filled the silence again, but this time it felt lighter, almost like music. For the first time, Myra allowed herself to stay longer, sharing pieces of her world about the cities of glass her people built, about their songs that were sung without words. She spoke with a calmness that surprised even her. As the stars appeared in the sky, she finally rose to leave. Do not tell anyone, she said firmly, but her voice no longer carried only fear. It carried trust. Aaron stood as well, watching her fade into the dark corridors. His heart was steady but full, knowing that the empty station now carried more than dust and echoes. It carried a secret, and a fragile bond growing stronger each day. He touched the bench where she had sat, whispering to himself, this place really does have stories left to tell. And now, he was part of one. The station had grown familiar to Aaron. What was once broken and empty now carried life, not only because of the repairs he made but because Myra often came. She was still careful, still watchful of shadows, but her steps were no longer as hesitant as before. When she entered, her eyes no longer darted around in fear. Instead, she looked first at him, as if making sure he was really there. That evening, the air felt strange. The sky outside was heavy with clouds, and the wind howled against the roof of the station. Aaron was fixing an old lamp near the platform when Myra arrived. She carried her small bag close to her chest, her face serious. You should not be here today, she said quickly. The air feels wrong. Aaron wiped dust from his hands. Maybe the storm is coming. But storms pass. We can stay inside. Myra shook her head, uneasy. Still, she did not leave. She sat down and watched him work, her fingers tapping nervously against her bag. It was then that Aaron noticed a faint smell like smoke. At first, he thought it came from his lamp, but when he turned, he saw it, a thin line of smoke rising near the far wall, curling into the air like a warning. Myra, he said sharply, pointing. She looked, and her eyes widened. A broken machine in the corner, long covered with dry wood and old cloth, had caught fire. Maybe from a spark of broken wires, maybe from the storm's wind pushing through metal, it did not matter how. Flames licked upward, spreading fast across the dry boards. The empty station, filled with dust and forgotten wood, was like a nest waiting to burn. "We have to leave," Aaron said firmly. He grabbed Myra's hand without thinking and pulled her toward the exit. But the fire moved faster than he expected. In moments, flames climbed the pillars, and smoke thickened the air. Myra coughed, her eyes shining bright even in the darkness. "This way," she called, pulling him toward a side hall. But when they reached it, a heavy beam crashed down with a loud crack, blocking the path with fire and debris. Aaron pulled her back. His heart pounded, but he forced himself to stay calm. "We'll find another way." The smoke was thick now, stinging their eyes and making it hard to breathe. The once silent station was alive with the roar of fire and the crack of breaking wood. Aaron guided Myra through the haze, using his lamp to cut through the smoke. He tried to remember the halls, the doors he had opened, the windows he had cleared. Every step felt heavy, every breath sharp. A burning plank fell suddenly from above. Without thinking, Aaron pushed Myra aside, shielding her with his body. The heat brushed his back, but he held firm, keeping her safe. Myra stared at him, shock in her glowing eyes. "Why would you do that?" she shouted over the crackle of flames. Aaron coughed but managed a smile. "Because that's what humans do. We protect, even when it hurts." For a moment, she looked at him as if seeing him for the first time. Then she grabbed his arm tightly. "Then protect yourself too. Come." They moved together, side by side. Aaron pushed broken boards away, while Myra used her strength to shove heavy blocks of stone aside. The two of them became one, their steps matching, their breaths fighting the smoke together. At last, they reached a small window, half covered with wood. Aaron struck the boards with his tools until they cracked, while Myra pulled them free. Flames were already creeping closer, but the night air outside called to them. With a final push, the window broke open, and fresh air rushed in. They climbed out, coughing and gasping, collapsing onto the ground outside. The station roared behind them, flames reaching high into the sky, painting the night with orange light. The place that had been their secret meeting ground was now a tower of fire. Myra sat on the ground, clutching her bag to her chest. Her silver skin glowed in the firelight, her eyes wide with fear and something more, something deeper. She looked at Aaron, who lay on his back, breathing hard. "You could have left me," she whispered, her voice trembling. "But you didn't." Aaron turned his head toward her, his face tired but steady. "I told you, sometimes broken things can still have meaning. You're not broken, Myra. You're worth saving." The fire crackled behind them, but in that moment, Myra no longer heard it. Her heart beat fast, not from fear but from something new, something she had never felt before. For the first time, she realized the fire was not only destroying the station. It was also lighting something between them, something stronger than rules, stronger than fear. She reached out, her hand shaking slightly, and touched his arm. Aaron looked at her, and though neither spoke, the meaning was clear. The station might burn to ashes, but the bond they had found inside it would not. Smoke filled the air outside the station, darkening the sky above. Aaron and Myra lay on the ground for a moment, catching their breaths. Flames danced behind them, eating the wooden beams and old machinery that had once filled the station with life. Despite the danger, Aaron's mind focused only on one thing: keeping Myra safe. "We can't stay here," he said, standing carefully. He offered his hand to Myra. "We need to get farther away before the fire spreads too much." Myra nodded, though her face was pale and her breaths came in quick bursts. She trusted him completely, even as the fire roared behind them. With her hand in his, they moved carefully over uneven ground and fallen debris, each step filled with tension. "Wait," Myra whispered suddenly. She stopped and crouched near a section of the station that had fallen. "There might be another exit this way. Follow me." Aaron followed silently, trusting her instincts. They moved through a narrow passage that led to an old service corridor. Smoke poured in from broken windows, but Myra led the way, her small frame weaving between falling debris with agility. Aaron lifted pieces of wood and metal that blocked their path, each movement precise and careful. A loud crash echoed behind them as part of the roof fell. Aaron pushed Myra forward, using his body as a shield again, and together they dove past the falling debris. The heat was intense, but Aaron reminded himself to stay calm. Panic could be deadly in situations like this. Finally, they reached a side door. It was blocked by heavy metal scraps, but Myra grabbed one end with surprising strength. Aaron lifted the other, and together, they pushed the door open. Fresh air rushed in, carrying away some of the smoke and filling their lungs with relief. They stumbled out into the night, coughing and gasping. Myra held her bag tightly, still concerned about the crystals inside. Aaron looked back at the station. Flames had already consumed much of the roof, and the walls were cracking from the heat. What had been a quiet, abandoned place was now an inferno. Suddenly, a group of figures appeared on the edge of the platform. Myra froze. Her people had arrived. Their expressions were serious, their eyes scanning the chaos with suspicion. "Aaron," she whispered, gripping his arm. "They will not understand." He looked at her, seeing both fear and determination in her bright eyes. "Then we face it together," he said firmly. Myra stepped forward, standing tall despite the fire and smoke. She spoke loudly, her voice echoing in the night. "This human saved my life. He risked himself when I could not." Her people stopped in surprise. Aaron could see the confusion in their faces. Myra continued, her tone steady. "He did what few of us would do. I will not turn away from him." Aaron felt a warmth spread through his chest. He had not expected Myra to speak so boldly for him, but now he understood the depth of her trust. He nodded to her and said quietly, "I only did what anyone would do for a friend." Myra's people looked at each other, uncertain. Their eyes were sharp, trained to judge and enforce rules, but now they hesitated. Aaron could see the conflict in their faces. They had never met a human who acted with such courage and care. One of the elders stepped forward. "You risked everything, human," he said, his voice low. "Why?" Aaron straightened, his gaze steady. "Because some things are more important than rules. Some things are worth protecting, even if it is dangerous. Myra's life is one of those things." The elder looked at Myra, then back at Aaron. Myra's eyes were shining with pride and relief. Slowly, the group began to step back, allowing them to move away from the station. Outside the boundaries of the fire, Aaron and Myra finally stopped. Smoke and ash filled the air, but they were safe for now. Myra set her bag down, brushing dust and soot from her clothes. She looked at Aaron, her silver skin glowing faintly in the firelight. "You could have been hurt," she said softly, though her voice held no anger. I do not know how to repay you." Aaron smiled, though he was still catching his breath. "You don't need to. Just being here with you is enough." For the first time, Myra allowed herself to relax completely. She sat down next to him, their shoulders touching. They watched the flames consume the station, feeling the heat on their skin but also a strange sense of renewal. The place that had been a secret meeting point, a forgotten corner of the world, was gone. But in its place, something new had begun: trust, courage, and a bond that neither fire nor rules could destroy. In that quiet moment, surrounded by smoke and glowing embers, Aaron realized something important. He had not only saved Myra, she had saved him too, from loneliness, from fear, from a world that often ignored small acts of care. Together, they had faced the fire, and together, they would face whatever came next. The morning after the fire, the abandoned train station was nothing more than ashes and charred beams. The smoke had cleared, leaving the air thick with the smell of burnt wood. Aaron and Myra stood a few meters away, looking at the remains. The place that had once been their secret meeting spot was now unrecognizable. Myra held her bag tightly, the memory crystals safe inside. She felt a mix of relief and sadness. The fire had destroyed the station, but it had also brought her and Aaron closer. Still, her thoughts were troubled. She knew her people would not forgive what had happened. And even though Aaron had saved her, following her heart meant facing consequences she could not yet imagine. Aaron looked at her carefully. "Are you all right?" he asked softly. Myra hesitated, then nodded. "Yes. I think so. But this changes everything. My people, they will question me. They will demand I stop seeing you." Aaron stepped closer, placing a gentle hand on her shoulder. "Then you have a choice. You can go back to them and follow their rules, or you can stay and decide what matters most to you." Her eyes met his, shining with uncertainty. "It is not so simple," she said quietly. "If I return, they will punish me for what happened last night. But if I stay, I defy them. I could be cast out forever." Aaron smiled, trying to ease her worry. "Sometimes, the hardest choices are also the most important ones. You have to follow your heart, Myra. I will respect your decision, whatever it is." Myra closed her eyes, remembering the fire, the way Aaron had guided her, the way he had risked himself without a second thought. She remembered the moment when she had realized the bond between them, something stronger than rules or fear. "You speak as if walls do not exist," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "But they do. And if I cross them, you are stronger than any wall," Aaron interrupted gently. "Stronger than fear, stronger than rules that try to keep people apart. I see it in you every time you come here. I see it in how you face danger, how you protect what matters to you." Myra opened her eyes. His words touched something deep inside her, a part of herself she had long hidden. She thought about her people, about their rules, about the fear of being punished. And then she thought about Aaron, about how he had trusted her, protected her, and valued her beyond any rule. For a long moment, she said nothing. The wind blew through the charred remains of the station, carrying a few falling embers. The night of the fire seemed far away now, yet its memory burned brighter than ever. I cannot return, she finally said, her voice firm but soft. Not yet. I need to decide who I am, and I cannot leave you behind. Aaron's chest lifted slightly with relief. He smiled at her, a mix of pride and warmth. Then we will face this together, he said quietly. No rules, no fear, just us and the choices we make. Myra looked at him, her silver skin faintly glowing in the soft morning light. She felt lighter, as if a weight she had carried for years had finally been lifted. For the first time, she could see a future where she made her own path, where fear did not rule her, and where she could be with someone she trusted. I will have to be careful, she admitted. My people will not understand. They may still try to stop me. Aaron nodded. Then we will be careful together. But even if they do try, nothing can take away what we have. That is stronger than fear, stronger than rules, stronger than the fire. Myra's lips curved into a small, genuine smile. She felt courage rising within her. The station may have been destroyed, but it had given her something even more valuable: the clarity to make her choice and the courage to follow it. The two of them stood together, side by side, looking at the blackened remains of the station. It was more than ashes, it was a symbol. A place that had once been abandoned, forgotten, and lifeless had now sparked a new beginning, not just for the station, but for Myra and Aaron. She took a deep breath, feeling the cool wind against her face. Then, let us leave this place, Aaron. Together. He smiled and offered his hand. She took it without hesitation. They walked away from the ruins, leaving behind the fire that had tested them, but carrying with them the trust, hope, and connection that no fire could ever destroy. In that moment, Myra realized that choosing her heart over fear was not weakness. It was bravery, the kind that could change not only her life but also the world around her. And with Aaron by her side, she knew she could face whatever came next. The morning air was crisp, carrying the faint scent of smoke from the burned station. Aaron and Myra stood at the edge of the charred ruins, looking at what remained of their secret meeting place. The once lively hall, with benches and broken lamps, had been reduced to ash and blackened beams. Yet, neither of them felt sadness. Instead, they felt hope. This place is gone, Myra said quietly, her silver skin shining in the soft sunlight. But, it feels different. Not empty anymore. Aaron nodded. Yes. Fire destroys, but it also makes space for new things. And we can start something new here too. Myra looked at him, her eyes bright. She thought about the past weeks, their meetings, the secrets shared, and the fire that had tested them. All of it had led to this moment. She realized that trust, courage, and care could survive even the most dangerous situations. Do you really think we can make it, something good again? She asked. Aaron smiled. Not just good. Better. This place can be more than a station. A place for people, humans, and aliens, to come together. A place where stories can live again. Myra hesitated for a moment. Her people had strict rules, and she had chosen to follow her heart instead. But seeing Aaron's calm confidence made her feel brave. She nodded slowly. Then let us do it. Together. Over the next days, they returned to the ruins daily. They cleared debris, carried stones to stabilize walls, and lifted charred beams carefully. Aaron showed Myra how to use simple tools to strengthen the structure, while she used her alien strength to move heavier pieces safely. They laughed at their mistakes. Sometimes a beam would fall in the wrong place, or a stone would roll across the floor, but their shared effort made every problem feel lighter. As they worked, they talked about everything. Myra shared stories of her people's cities of glass, songs that had no words, and traditions that had been forgotten. Aaron told her about humans, how they built colonies, survived storms, and found beauty in small things. They shared their dreams, hopes, and even fears. Slowly, the new space began to feel alive again, not just with the ruins being rebuilt, but with the warmth of their connection. One afternoon, Myra stopped and looked at the newly repaired platform. "Do you think others will come?" she asked. Aaron shrugged but smiled. "If they see the warmth here, I think they will. People are drawn to places that feel alive, not empty." Myra touched his arm gently. "I never thought I could feel safe and happy like this." Aaron looked into her eyes. "You deserve to. And we can make sure others do too." By the evening, the first benches were repaired. The roof was partially rebuilt with new beams, allowing sunlight to stream through openings, casting patterns on the floor. Myra placed her bag carefully in a corner, the memory crystals safe, and looked around. She realized the station, once abandoned, had become a symbol of resilience. It was proof that even after destruction, life could return stronger. As the sun set, Aaron and Myra stood side by side on the platform, watching the sky turn orange and pink. The wind was calm, carrying the faint scent of fresh wood and earth. Myra leaned slightly toward Aaron. "Do you think this, us, can last?" she asked softly. Aaron smiled, holding her hand gently. "We faced fire together. We chose to trust each other. That is stronger than anything else. Yes, I believe it can." Myra smiled, the first true smile without hesitation. The fire that had threatened to destroy everything had instead given them courage, trust, and the chance to start again. Together, they had found something rare: connection beyond fear, beyond rules, beyond distance. As night fell, the two of them lit small lanterns around the platform. The soft glow reflected in Myra's bright eyes, and Aaron felt a warmth he had never known. They stood quietly, listening to the gentle breeze and watching the stars appear one by one. For Myra and Aaron, the abandoned station was no longer just a place of history. It had become a symbol of hope, trust, and new beginnings. The fire that had once threatened to destroy them had instead sparked something stronger, a bond that would guide them forward, a story that was only just beginning. Hand in hand, they walked away from the blackened ruins, ready to rebuild not only the station but also a future together. A future full of life, warmth, and courage, their own story, shining brighter than any fire could ever burn.